On this episode, we do things a little differently. So, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Stock Price, guys. My name is Devroyd Davis. Typically, what I would try to do before I even start recording a video is I would go through a whole scripting process. I would basically gather all my sources, then gather all my data, then put it together, do some synthesization, so I'm not copyright infringing. So I'm not infringing on anybody's copyright. And then I would basically write an entire script, go over it once or twice, and then come in front of the camera to present it. But in this episode, I'm going to take more of a flexible approach, just given the sheer volume of things that have been happening in the market. I can promise you guys that probably on the weekend, you'll get one of my refined episodes where I go into the deep dive analysis on one of the companies. And if there's a company that interests you guys, in the description below, and I'll do a 7-point analysis on that company. If you want to know what I do in the 7-point analysis, then you can go to CaribbeanValueInvestor.com and you can search for value investing education. You'll see my full list of criteria that I use to assess a company as to whether or not it would be a good investment for me. Alright, now I can do the analysis for you guys, but ultimately you will have to decide whether or not you will be making a purchase or you will be investing in that company. And guys, you should never buy a company just because I'm buying it, okay? Let me make that perfectly clear. Always speak to your financial advisor. I don't want to go to no jail. Alright? Just leave it in the... So, a whole lot of things happening in the markets this week. Today is Thursday, January 10, 2019. And like it's just been one thing after the other from Sunday. So, since the new year, we've had the official listing of Fontana Limited. That happened yesterday. And already the price has gone well beyond the IPO price. 16. I don't think the stock has doubled as yet, but I'll tell you what the stock closed at. So this is what I meant when I said things are going to be a little bit different. So Fontana closed yesterday. Remember, it opened on Monday. Sorry. It opened on Tuesday. And yesterday the stock closed at, let's see if I can find it here. Fontana. At $3.17. So it's up $1.29. Now remember that Fontana came out in its IPO at a price of $1.88 Jamaican. So for it to be up $1.29, that you're looking at a 90 something percent increase in just within just 2 trading days of the stock actually listing. And that's just one thing. Like we've seen a few companies, we've seen trading happening in a few companies within the range of like a few billion dollars worth of the stock trading. This actually happened yesterday's Indies Pharma. So this isn't billions, this is a few million. So Indies Pharma traded 23,000, So yesterday Indies Pharma traded 23,234,566 units of the stock at a price of $3.20. So you do the math and see just how much money was actually involved in that transaction. That was a block transaction, it would seem, giving us something, guys, and it is telling us that the owners that are selling these shares are persons who would have had a large chunk. They have a huge stake in the company, and that means it's either management or some pooled equity fund. The other thing is XFUND. So I don't know if you guys remember, I'll put a link in the description, but late last year, XFUND had actually reported a loss. The company had entered into an agreement with PLAYA Hotels, which is this huge Mexican chain. They own the Hilton, the Hyatt, you name the exquisite hotel, quite likely PLAYA Hotel is actually their parent company. Entered into an agreement with PLAYA, and in that agreement, XFUND gave a few of the hotel branches or hotel brands to PLAYA in return for stock in PLAYA. So it means that XFUND, the company, is now a shareholder in PLAYA, which is a multi-billion-dollar multinational deal that XFUND did with PLAYA. XFUND actually gave over ownership of the Hilton Rosal, Jewel Runaway Bay, Jewel Duns River, Jewel Paradise Cove, 88 units comprising one of the towers in the multi-tower condo at Jewel Grand Montego Bay, development lands adjacent to Jewel Grand and the Hilton Spa, and a management contract for units by Sagicor and all rights to the Jewel brand. So with that, you can see that's a whole lot of assets that XFUND transferred over to PLAYA. And so what did they get in return? Well, they got some cash. They also got a significant amount of stock. So PLAYA finalizing its acquisition of the Sagicor assets for a total consideration of US $308 million in June. So under the deal, according to this post, under the deal, Sagicor became the second largest shareholder in the PLAYA group, and that is massive news for Sagicor. In the September quarter of 2018, Sagicor XFUND actually recorded a loss, and they recorded a loss primarily because of a tanking in the share price. Remember, because they now own shares in PLAYA, those shares are carried on their books as assets, and they're carried primarily at their market value. So if the market value of the shares go down, think about it just like your portfolio. If you have NCB stock and you have Grace Kennedy stock, and the price of the stock goes down, then the value of your portfolio goes down. However, it doesn't mean that the company is not doing well, and that was precisely the case with XFUND. Even though and that was precisely the case with XFUND. Even though the company itself recorded a loss, it was not due to any fundamental matters associated with the operations of the company. The company simply recorded a loss because they held what are known as marketable securities, and the prices of those fluctuate, as you know as an investor. Now, what we're starting to see, and this is evident in this trade, I'm not able to show you all of them, but in this particular trade, this trade of 500 plus thousand units that happened today, what we found out, just looking a little bit beyond the price of the stock alone, is that the company is actually turning around and the revenues are actually growing year over year. So you have a company that revenues are growing year over year, but the stock price goes down because of a marketable security that is listed on the books going down. I saw that as a buying opportunity, and I wasn't alone. Now, as it relates to Indies Pharma and its 23 million shares that traded, it turns out also that today, after the market closed, Indies actually put out a disclosure to say that they had appointed a new corporate secretary in the form of, and just give me a minute, let me get the name here. So the news came out on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and it said Indies Pharma announces appointment of corporate secretary. So Indies Pharma Limited Jamaica has advised that Miss Venice Williams Gordon has been appointed as the company's corporate secretary effective January 2, 2019. Now I did just a brief look at who Miss Venice Williams Gordon is, and this is a very high profile lawyer. She was a managing partner at one of the leading law firms in Jamaica, and she's now joining the team at Indies Pharma. I have a few speculations as to the circumstances around that trade, just based off things that I've seen in the past. Don't want to speculate here, so I'm going to be waiting a little bit more disclosures from the company, and then in the follow-up video what I'll talk about is the actual circumstances that surrounded this trade. Typically, when companies trade this huge of an amount of their shares or their stock units, what they will do is they will follow up a day or two after, once the transaction has been finalized, with a disclosure to the Jamaica Stock Exchange explaining what actually happened. So those are two of the major things. As I said, there's far more to it. Knutsford Express has raised $150 million in a bond issue. One intended use of some of these funds is to actually acquire a small bus charter company out of Florida. So this is Oliver Townsend now stepping outside of Jamaica to actually acquire companies that are operating in international markets. This to me, guys, is extremely big news, because this means foreign exchange income for Knutsford Express, and that is a big thing. Many of the companies that tend to perform really well have an export arm. If I'm being totally honest, I would never have thought that a transportation company could get into literally an export market. Technically it's not an export market, but could get into an overseas market. But here is Oliver Townsend doing it. And there's a lot that I could talk, like I could do an entire video on Oliver Townsend and Knutsford Express. And trust me, it is a beautiful story. So if you guys want me to do that video, you can just leave it in the description and I will literally dig up the archives and I'll take you through from the IPO to the performance, to Proven's acquisition of a stake in the company, to the growth that they did after that, to opening the Sangsters terminal to where they actually are now. And trust me, the growth potential that I'm seeing, just looking at what Oliver Townsend and his team has done here, is immense. So I guess the last story that I'll talk about for this video is NCB, one of my favorite companies. As a stock, we have our issues otherwise, but as a stock, perfect. Now, NCB, based off news that is coming from the Jamaica Observer, if NCB's acquisition of Guardian Holdings were to be approved and the existing minority shareholders were to actually sell their shares, then NCB's revenue could actually top 1.5 billion. I do believe that was the article I saw. One sec. Right. So if the minority shareholders were to actually accept NCB's offer to purchase their shares in Guardian Holdings, it is being projected that the NCB Financial Group's revenue could top that 1.5 billion US dollars. So as at September 2018, NCB's revenue were actually around 600. So you can imagine them now adding another 700 million on top of that revenue. It's basically doubling the revenue of the company within the span of a year. Absolutely, I mean, that's mind-blowing. Again, I'm going to have to do a full in-depth analysis of NCB, inclusive of the annual report that came out earlier this week, and that video is going to, I'm going to have to push it back a little bit, but that's it guys. Just wanted to come on and share a few points. This video ended up being much longer than I originally thought it would be. My original intent was literally just to come on and just dish out the news, but because of the nature of the channel, we say that it's beyond the stock price, and so I just didn't want to come on and tell you about the stocks price and the trading that happened today. We wanted to look a little bit deeper than that, and it turns out that there's just a whole lot more to unpack underneath the headlines and underneath the prices that you see quoted on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So guys, if you haven't subscribed, I'm going to encourage you right now to just click on that subscribe button. There's a little bell behind it if you want to be notified of our next video. Click on that. And if you have any thoughts or comments, anything that you are curious about, just leave it in the comments, and I'll be sure to get back to you. I have a lot of plans for beyond the stock price going into the future, and the idea is that it's going to have to be a little bit more organized in terms of the scheduling and all of that, but I will keep you guys, my valued subscribers, up to date on the latest happenings. I'll probably do a separate video on that, if not next week, then by the end of January, just so we're positioned for February going into the rest of 2019 and beyond. So guys, again, thank you. Please be sure to like and leave a comment. Let me know if you have any thoughts, and if there's anybody that you would want to share the video with, I highly encourage you to go and do that. The more players we have in the market, then the better it is for all of us. Alright?